G'day everyone. Well, the engine is back in the Z and it's running nicely. So let's have a look at how we got here. We'll go through where all the plugs and harnesses and vacuum lines go and just a few tips on how to get the engine back into your 300ZX. Okay, firstly, the engine bay, we'll give it a good degrease. We've cleaned everything out. We've checked all of our connections and hoses. We've changed out any hoses that might be a problem, including those two heater hoses that are very hard to get to when the engine's in. The air conditioning compressor is still in and it's still charged. We're going to work around that when we put the engine in. The alternator is still connected in there as well. One thing we did remove was the power steering pump. It makes it much easier to get the engine in, and that's not too hard to fit on its own. Of course, here's the engine, the VG30 we've been rebuilding. I've put the downpipes from the turbos on. Just look out for that right-hand side one. It can catch on that steering column on the way in. And of course, we've got the engine slung through the manifold the same way we took it out in this other video. And we're going to drop it into the engine bay much like this. We've got this earth we're going to put on the back of the transmission and on the engine here. We took them off on the way out. It's much easier to put them on now at this point. Same goes with the alternator. We're going to fit the alternator to the front of the engine. When we're in around about this position here, there's a couple of torque specs there. Get that alternator bolted on and get that harness back to the back of the engine. There's a mount here on the back of the engine as well for the positive from the battery. Just make sure we fit that as we are progressing, putting this engine into the engine bay. I've got the come along here to the air conditioning idler bracket. It helps us tip the engine back a little bit until we get to this point. As you can see, we'll drop the front down here. Having the vehicle up on jack stands at this point can make it a little bit easier. I had mine on the wheels and I found that the transmission kept touching the ground and I had to readjust in order to get the engine and transmission in together. And just look out for that bracket there on the transmission. Make sure it's facing that way. When you fit the engine, if you have it flipped up, you'll have to take the engine back out again. I did take this air conditioning idler bracket off during the engine fitment because it does get in the way a lot and you can fit the two together. So make sure you take that off. It actually makes it much easier once you've got the engine in the engine bay. Same for these harnesses here. Make sure they're lifted up and out the way. If them heater hoses get in the way of them harnesses, you can't push the engine all the way back and you'll never be able to fit it because there's just no clearance for them. They have to go above those two heater pipes. Now, once we've got the engine in and sitting on the mounts, we need to fit this tail shaft again. It's almost impossible to fit it straight back into the back of the transmission. I did try, so we'll have to take it off, fit it into the back of the transmission and then put it back on again. Of course, the back of the transmission is now held up and mounted. I've got the bolts in there and there's a torque spec for those 6 bolts. And there's an earth on there as well. We'll get this tail shaft off and refit it. Of course, we're going to mark it, make sure it stays in phase where it came off. It's always good practice. I'm going to put it back on, get that center bearing held back up there. And there's a torque for that as well. With that center bearing bracket up there and torqued on, we can also torque up the uni joints. They're nuts and bolts. We can use a spanner and a torque wrench to do them. Leave the park brake on or leave it in gear. And it should be fairly straightforward to do them up. With them wheels off the ground, of course, we can release the park brake and turn the drive shaft in order to get to the next one. And while we're under there with everything jacked up, we might as well fit the exhaust pipes as well. There's just 3 nuts on either side of those, and there's the torque for those. Of course, while we're underneath the car, it's good to get them engine mounts torqued down, 55 to 67 Newton meters on the 2 engine mount nuts. After that, we can jump back to the front of the car, jack the front up, drop the back, and we can torque up that air conditioning compressor. There's 2 bolts at the bottom, there's 1 at the front, and there's a tricky little one at the back as well. There's a torque spec for those. The one at the back, with all these pipes and hoses out, you should be able to get in there either with a crow's foot like this, or even just a spanner is fine. Just tighten it up with a spanner. There's 3 other bolts. The torque isn't too important for that back bolt. And then we can jump to the other side and fit the power steering. The reason we do these now is there's nothing else in the way. It's much easier to get the power steering and everything else in when everything is clear, no pipes or tubes are in the way. Of course, there's that hose we saw earlier, and the suction hose is the blue one. I've got that tube with the banjo on the wrong side of that blue hose. I do have to put it on the inside. You'll find it cannot fit if you don't fit it on the other side, on the engine side of that blue hose. Now the bolt that holds the power steering to the bracket goes through the hole in the pump, the same one we pulled off. So it goes through the hole in that pulley and goes through the pump housing itself and holds the pump against the engine, and it can pivot on there so we can adjust the tension on the belt. Of course, there's a banjo bolt with washers. It's going to go into that adapter once I get it on the right side of that hose. But for now, we'll put that bolt in, to the main body of the power steering pump, so we have something to swing it off when we fit that belt. I'm going to loosen it off a little bit. It's not fully torqued up because we do want it to swing. We will torque it later. The adjusting bolt, there's a special bolt with a round head, goes through a relief in the back of that housing, and it drops through much like that. And then we'll fit the next bracket. You can see it just in that image there. So that bolt will slide on that bracket when we tighten it up. There's that banjo I was telling about earlier. That goes on the correct side of that pipe like I've got it there. And we can torque up that banjo. And there's also a bolt we can access through there. A small bolt we took out on strip that you don't really need to take out, but we did anyway. So make sure we put that one back in. We can make sure we torque up both of those banjos for that tube coming into the power steering and this one going to the rear steering solenoid. Torque both those up and we'll move on to the turbo boost lines. Okay, then turbo lines, if we're going with the stock setup, which is what I'm doing, we have these boost solenoids that have a T-piece, one of which goes to the wastegate and the other goes to the inside tube of the boost solenoid. Different to what I had on the very first image of this engine, they were backwards. This little nipple that's on the intake side of the turbocharger, that goes to the back side of the boost solenoid, the second tube. And this tube here, coming from the boosted side, that now has a boost T on it, that's going all the way across to the other side. We're going to delete that. If you want to put a boost T in line, that's how you do it. You run one signal, a boost T, and they share the same signal. In my case, we're going to run a signal from that tube to the boost solenoid and also to the wastegate via that T-piece, and the back side of the boost solenoid goes to the inlet side of the turbo, that little nipple there. That is the factory setup to have it exactly as you can see it there. Back one goes to the inlet, front one goes to the wastegate, and in this case, a boost T, but we're going to get rid of that boost T and we're going to fit it straight to that tube on the outlet side of the intercooler. We're going to do the same on both sides. So this is the right-hand side of the engine. We can see there, we've still got the same thing. We've got a T-piece to the wastegate, and in this case, it goes all the way along the front of the car to the boost T, which we're not going to do. We're going to get rid of this one that has a blank on it. We're going to plug into that one, get rid of the blank, get rid of the boost T, and plug straight into the wastegate. That is the factory setup, and that is what we're going to run when this particular engine, back to stock, stock boost, everything will be happy. Next, we can attach the throttle cables and the cruise control cable. Nothing too exciting about those. Basically the same way we pulled them off in the strip and just snug up them nuts, 8 to 10 Newton meters, just to hold them in place. After that, we can start fitting all of the inlet tubes. There's quite a few of them, and we start with the bottom one, which is the accordion tubes. Now, the right-hand side one has a small nipple and the inlet for the PCV, so it is unique to the other one, and the shape is slightly different as well. They're incredibly flexible, which is good because it's a very hard position to get them in. I fit them on the turbo side first in this case, give them a bit of a bend and then push them in to that inlet side. They can be pretty tight in there, but it's pretty possible. Very important to get the clamps orientated so you can actually access them to tighten them up, and then we can fit the PCV, and that little nipple goes to the intake side of the throttle butterfly just like that. Same with the other side. The left-hand side one only has the PCV barb on it. Same as before, we'll fit it to the inlet side of the turbocharger and then force it in to the bottom corner of that fender. It's a very, very tight spot. There's a lot of wiring harnesses, other things in the way, but it's quite possible because the accordion is so flexible and they do fit very easily onto their tubes. Same as before, make sure you give yourself access to those clamps. That's the most important part, is getting access to the clamps so you can get them on and off again if you need to as well. As you can see here, I'm using a 1/4 inch drive and a lot of extensions and a wobbly just to tighten it up. Once we've got them accordions in, we can put the outlet side of the turbo tubes on. Now these are a hard tube. I had them on the engine before, but fitting the engine and the accordions with them on is almost impossible. The left and right are different. The one on the left-hand side of the engine has the tube and the barb for the idle control that sits on the back of the manifold. There's a hose that goes on there, so they are unique to each other. Same as before, a little bit tight, orientate the clamps, and we can hold them in, and there's also a bolt that holds them to the bracket on the intake manifold. These other tubes here, these are the factory tubes that come out of the turbocharger into the intercooler. They pretty straightforward. Put them on, orientate the clamps again, and we can plug in the throttle position sensor there as well while we're there if we want to. Once all that's in, we can start plugging in harnesses as we see them. That particular harness does cable tie up to that tube, So everything should be in about the right spot. Of course, next we can fit the right hand side one as well. Same idea, they are a unique pipe to each other. Just fit them the same as before. They should go on fairly easily. You can give them a twist to get the orientation right. And these factory ones, they fit up really quite well. With those on, of course, we'll tighten everything down. Make sure your clamps are tight. You don't want to really miss one. It's not the end of the world, but make sure they're all tight. We can go ahead and fit all them coil packs. We had to take the coil packs out in order to get the sling through the intake manifold. I didn't take them all out, but I did take out 2, 4, 1, and 3. Get them back in and just nip them up. And of course, we can fit all the belts. I'll do a belt video separately on how to do all the belts, a bit of a generic video. For now, if you come this far, fitting the belts shouldn't be a big deal. Just make sure you adjust them up. There are some specs that I'll put in that video as well. When it comes time for the harness and all the plugs, we do need to take the balance tube back off again. It's unfortunate, but the balance tube does need to come off at least partially in order to get the wiring harness underneath it. I also took off a small section of the fuel lines. Now, basically just the hard mounted stuff so we can get the harness underneath. You can see here we're routing the harness underneath those fuel lines because we need to connect to all of the fuel injectors, the fuel rail, and we need to connect to the coil packs as well. I'll go through in a little bit just where all these plugs go. Basically, you want to lay the harness out so it's nice and tidy, and the plugs should become evident. All the coil packs should have numbers on them already, obviously 1 through to 6, so that should be fairly straightforward, but we'll have a look at where all them connectors go. Okay, let's see how well I remember this harness arrangement here. We have the main trunk that comes up the middle of the intake manifold. I've gone underneath the throttle cable for coil pack and injector 1 and 3. On the 2 and 4 side, we have the injector and the coil pack for number 2 and the fuel rail pressure sensor there as well, and the injector for number 4, but not the coil pack. We also have there the injector for number 5 and the injector for number 6. All the injectors come off that main trunk, but you can see here on this separate harness, we have the coil pack for 4 and 6, and on the harness near the master cylinder for the clutch, that is coil pack number 5. So 5, 6, and 4 don't come off the main harness. They come off 2 sub harnesses, but all the injectors do come off that main trunk of the main harness, including the pressure switch on that fuel rail. There are them 2 coil packs we spoke about, number 6 and number 4. They are off a separate harness and they come in from the back where the idle air control valve is. We also have, this is the VTC, that grey plug with the white tail, and that one there with the multicolour, the red, white and black, that is an oxy sensor for the left hand exhaust. There's an earth that needs to screw into there. Make sure that is clean or it will have problems. That is the idle up for the air conditioner, if you're going to fit that one. And there should be a yellow plug there, which is the electronic idle. There it is. We plug that in after we set our idle speed. That is for the ECM to maintain the idle of the engine. On the right hand side here, we have another oxy sensor. There is the red, white and black. So that's the exhaust oxy sensor, that particular one. We also have this long one, that is the other cam variable solenoid, the VCT solenoid. That's quite a long tail on that one, but that's where that one plugs in. And that is our knock sensor we fitted in an earlier video. That knock sensor there plugs in to that particular part of the harness there. Don't forget that one either. There's also another earth on there. Oh, that one there is for our fast idle when the engine's cold. That little grey plug goes into there, and that's another earth there. Don't forget that one. There should be 2 earths on either side, left and right of the intake manifold. Okay, next up we're going to fit the radiator. The fan and all the belts are on. We'll fit the radiator, make sure them bottom mounts are in. Make sure the radiator's clean. I flushed mine out and there was quite a bit of brown stuff in it. An O-ring also came out when I pulled this plug and it didn't look very good. So I'm just going to replace it with an O-ring that I have. I'm not entirely sure that drain cock needs one. There's a picture of one in the diagram, but it's not very clear. But make sure you fit an O-ring to there or it may leak. I've also fitted the shroud to it just to make it a little bit easier, and it drops in fairly straightforward. There's brackets on the top that hold it in. You can see here I'm struggling with the one on the cap side because there is a harness behind there. So you may need to push the radiator forward and lift the harness right up underneath the front side of that engine bay there. And the radiator should fit fairly straightforward. It's much easier once you pull that harness up. and just pull that bracket down. And of course we can fit the top and bottom hose. The bottom hose is a huge one that goes all the way to the other side of the radiator in this case for the TT. And the top one's quite a short little one. Same as fitting any hose, just make sure the clamps are tight before we fill it with any coolant. And while I'm here, I'm going to go ahead and fit the boost hoses that go to the intake butterflies. These are an aftermarket hose, very similar to the original ones. They're just a bit more silicone and colorful, and they are different left and right. They fit fairly straightforward. Once again, don't forget to tighten up all the clamps. Once it comes time to fill it with coolant, I'm going with a 50% concentrate mix with, make sure we get the demineralized water. Look after your cooling system. I'm just going to let it mix in the cooling system 50-50. It pretty much took about 8 liters all up. And of course, while we're talking fluids, we're also going to fill up that transmission before we drop the car back down on the deck. And we're also going to need to fit the 2 fuel lines, of course. New fuel filter is always a good idea. The return line is the one that doesn't come out the fuel filter. Make sure they're tight. And then we'll go ahead and do the internals, and we'll fit this new shifter linkage that I've got. I've got new bushes, and it just fits obviously in the center like this. Now we need to take that apart. It doesn't fit through that shifter bracket. The ball won't fit through there, so we need to split it in 2 halves. Of course, this is an aftermarket shifter, and this car has been manually converted. So this is actually the automatic tunnel, but it doesn't really make any difference. We fit that from underneath, and then we can couple it to its other half from the top. It does require you to get your hands in there a little bit. It can be quite tight. It's possible to do it from underneath as well if you need to, but I found it much easier to do sitting in the cab. And we can pull it down with those 2 bolts. There's 2 bolts that hold that down, and there's a stud that locates that shifter bracket to the mount that should be in there. Of course, mine's manually converted, so that mount is slightly different. Okay, with that shifter bolted down, we do need to put the long bolt, in my case a bolt, it might not be, into the actual shifter linkage itself, and make sure we tighten that up. Not too tight. I've used a locking nut to make sure we still have movement. My shifter has a bit of a pedestal here, and I do have a spacer here. You can see that spacer. I probably will move that spacer underneath to push everything down. My shifter sits a lot higher than it should, so I'm going to put that spacer on the other side. We can tighten it up with a shifter. It has a special relief in it, so we can use something to tighten it down properly, and then we can get ready to start the engine. Okay, so we're ready to start the engine up. Of course, make sure we are on the full mark for engine oil. Make sure we got enough coolant going in. We're going to need to top it up as we go, as it will consume coolant as everything fills up. Before starting it, I swung it over a few times without allowing any fuel to go into the injector rail, whether you use the immobilizer like I did, or you can take the solenoid or fuse out. Swing it over a few times before you let it start. And when you do let it start, it should fire up. Have someone checking, or even yourself if you have to. Look for any oil leaks. Make sure we get oil pressure as soon as the engine starts up. There should be oil pressure on the gauge, or the light should go off. Check for any leaks, oil or coolant. Have a listen for any knocks. It might be a little bit noisy on the tappets. Mine certainly were. Them lifters are a little bit noisy on startup before they get a bit of oil pressure, but they did quieten down pretty quickly. Let the engine warm up. Look for any abnormal smoke or anything like that. Once you're happy it's good, take it for a drive. And when running it in, go easy on it, but vary the revs, vary the load. Make sure you basically drive it like you normally would without beating on it too much, and change the oil after about 500 to 1,000 Ks. Always a good idea. Other than that, I'm very happy to have my car back on the road. Thank you very much for watching.